The very latest from here at home and across the world. This is Wednesday's edition of Primetime News, live on News First. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
A very good evening. I'm Shane Silva. An innovative method of using African honeybees in an attempt to overcome the human-elephant conflict and reduce damage from crop-raiding elephants.
Curious to find out more? Well, details on this initiative carried out by Dr. Lucy King in Kenya is coming up on the news.
But before that, let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The Jathika Helurumia said that the 13th Amendment to the Constitution cannot be accepted as per the principles of justice. A suspect under police custody commits suicide at the Hambantota Hospital today. Woman killed by a wild elephant. Africa uses bees to protect crops from elephants. And pace bowler Dilhara Lokuhettige named in the national squad after 8 years.
Taking a look at those stories in detail now. The Jathika Helurumia says that the 13th Amendment to the Constitution cannot be accepted in terms of the principles of justice. Convening a media briefing today, the JHU announced that a private member's bill seeking the abolishment of the 13th Amendment and the Provincial Council system would be tabled in Parliament next week. However, speaking at the media briefing on cabinet decisions today, Minister Anura Priyadarshana Yapa said that the powers of provincial councils should be subject to change only after broad discussions.
The government is bound to implement the constitution. From a legal perspective, this is correct. However, from a political perspective, where did this law come from? How was it included in the constitution? How was this created? Who forced this? Therefore, we are acting and considering this as a political factor. We are of the view that the provincial council system, which was brought about in violation of history, public opinion, democracy and the law, should be abolished. Until now, elections in Sri Lanka have been held under the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. If a change is to be made, then we think that this change must be made following broad discussions. Everyone has expectations, but all the expectations of all the people cannot be met. What I have to say now is that it is a constitutional amendment that is in effect. We held elections for the Eastern Province in accordance with this. The Eastern Provincial Council is now functioning. Come September, elections for the Northern Province will be held in the same manner. I do not know whether the system will change or not. We will bring this constitutional amendment before Parliament as a private member's bill. We hope that all those in Parliament who value democracy and the unity of the country will support this motion. We hope that the current President and Cabinet will turn their attention towards this and will do what is necessary to pass this motion. We also wish to reiterate that this bill is not intended at depriving the Tamil people of their rights. The ability to put forward private motions is a unique factor of democracy in Sri Lanka. The first private members' bills were presented in 1948 in the State Assembly. This is a right of members of Parliament. A private member's bill will not always reflect the stance of the government.
What you just witnessed are some of the views that are constantly expressed regarding the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. What does the 13th Amendment to the Constitution entail? When, where and how did it all come about?
The 23rd of July 1987 was a landmark day in the history of Sri Lanka and neighbouring India. On this day, President J.R. Jayawardena and the Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi signed the Indo-Lanka Accord, which envisioned a political solution for Sri Lanka bound with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution was eventually tabled in Parliament on the 12th of November 1987 and was subsequently passed with 138 members voting for the amendment and 11 MPs casting their votes against. Although the country is divided into 9 provinces, the 13th Amendment contains legal provisions for the establishment of 8 provinces. This situation arose due to the conditional establishment of one provincial council for the North and East. Section 3B of the Indo-Lanka Accord contains the provision that both provinces be combined. Although a referendum was to be held on or before the 31st of December 1988 for the people of the Eastern Province on whether to separate from the North, the President was vested with the power to postpone such a referendum. A referendum was not held and the 2 provinces were subsequently divided by the Supreme Court. The Western, Southern, Central, North Central, Uva, Northwestern and Sabaragamu provinces too were established under the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. While subsection 9 of the 13th Amendment contains 18 powers that the provincial councils should be vested with, among these are the much talked about police and land powers. This crucial factor in the amendment has both its opponents and proponents. Let's say we take these powers away from the provincial councils. What will happen then? The meaning of provincial councils will be lost. What is the meaning of the provincial council system? The idea behind the provincial council system is the devolution of power among communities. If land and police powers are taken away, the meaning of provincial councils will be lost completely. What happens then is that the provincial councils will become similar to the local government councils and the provincial council system will become a meaningless system.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa paid homage to the temple of the Sacred Tooth relic in Kandy today.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa also visited the chief prelate of the Askeri chapter, the most venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakkhita Thera. Here, President Rajapaksa gifted an apothecary table containing 24 varieties of traditional medicines to the chief prelate. Thereafter, the head of state called on the chief prelate of the Malwathu chapter, most venerable Tibbotuawe Sri Sumangala Thera, and presented a similar apothecary table. Meanwhile, 11 dairy cows awaiting slaughter were set free by the president in view of the Vesak Poya week. This event took place at the president's official residence in Kandy.
A suspect who was receiving treatment at the Hambantota hospital under police custody committed suicide by jumping off the top floor of the hospital building today.
The family of a 9-year-old girl had lodged a complaint with the police charging that the suspect had molested the girl. Our reporter says that area residents had subsequently tied the suspect to a tree and then subjected him to a public beating. The suspect was later arrested by the Hambantota police and remanded until the 5th of June after being produced in court. The suspect, who was in police custody awaiting the arrival of prison officials to transfer him to the remand prison, was brought to the Hambantota hospital at about 7:30 this morning in order to obtain treatment for the injuries he sustained during the beating. The suspect had reportedly said that he needed to use the washroom and had then jumped off the 3rd floor of the building. The suspect was critically injured in the fall and, despite the efforts of medical staff, succumbed to his injuries. The deceased suspect was a 73-year-old resident of Hambantota.
On to another story that made the headlines tonight now. A woman was killed after she was mauled by a wild elephant in the Singhapura area in Valikanda. The victim was identified as 64-year-old D.G. Nandawati, a resident from Singhapura.
A correspondent said the woman was mauled by the wild elephant near her residence. Although the woman was a mother of 6, she lived alone in this house. The body of the victim was discovered last evening.
That was another incident in the ongoing human-elephant conflict in Sri Lanka. In such a conflict, either a wild elephant or a human pays with his life. Incidentally, this issue is also common in African nations. The following report is about a biologist who is attempting to use honeybees to bring about a solution to the human-elephant conflict in Kenya.
Conflicts between humans and elephants occur very often in countries such as Kenya in Africa. As per the latest research carried out by scientists in South Africa, it has been discovered that farmers' crops could be safeguarded from wild elephants with the help of honeybees. A report published by animal behavior specialist Dr. Lucy King notes that elephants emit low-frequency alarm calls when there are bees around. This alarm emitted by elephants acts as a warning for other elephants, indicating that the area is infested with bees. Dr. King suggests that farmers could make beehive fences by stringing up hives on poles set up 10 meters apart around their crops. Adding that it is not feasible to cover Africa in electric fences, King is proposing these beehive fences as a more practical alternative.
So I've designed a beehive fence that goes around the farmers' fields, which protects the farm from the elephants. It gives the farmers beekeeping, bee products such as candle making, and it gives them this alternative livelihood as well as stopping elephant crop raiding. So it's a very holistic project. It has multiple benefits, and we're trying to expand that around Africa. And the new idea is to go to Asia and see if we can adapt this for Asian elephants and Asian farmers using different types of bees, different elephants.
What are your thoughts on this news story you just witnessed? We would like to hear your comments and views. Share them on our Facebook page or by simply logging on to our website www.newsfirst.lk.
In more local news, speaking at an event in Colombo yesterday, Professor Sarath Vijaysurya said that media institutions should focus more attention on language when training anchors.
An event was held at the auditorium of the Mahaveli Centre in Colombo last evening to launch the book titled Kathawen Dinanamaga, authored by advisor to China Radio International, Chandana Tilakaratna. A large crowd were present at the occasion.
අපි තේරුම් ගත යුතුයි මේ මාධ්‍යවල වැඩ කරන අය ඒවල යම් යම් තනතුරු දරන අය අද පවතින යථා
We would understand that those who are working in media institutions holding various designations cannot be fully committed towards working for the betterment of society. Those engaged in the print media and the electronic media should know this. It is not a secret. It should be noted that those who are involved in the media do not always steer it for political gain. There are numerous programs that have an effect on various aspects of society. Why is that they are low in quality? Why is that they do not maintain the required standards?
කරන්නේ දේශපාලනික ප්‍රචාරණීය නෙමෙයි. ජන විඥාණයට බලපෑම් කරන වැඩසටහන් අප්‍රමාණව නිර්මාණය කරලා ප්‍රචාරය කරනවා. ඒව ගුණාත්මක අගයෙන් දුර්වල කරන්නේ ඇයි?
Yesterday on News First, we highlighted the reasons why areas in and around the Hatton town were flooded with the heavy showers experienced on the 13th of this month. The Nuwara District Secretary took measures to look into this issue today.
This was a situation that could be witnessed in most areas of the Hatton town on the 13th of this month. Several areas were flooded when the Dikoya broke its banks. Area residents charged that illegal constructions undertaken on the banks of the Dikoya have led to floods occurring at the slightest hint of rain. Following this revelation made by News First, the Nuwara District Secretary inspected the area today. The district secretary, who inquired into the issues faced by the locals, shared his views with News First. The Sirasa Media Network highlighted the floods that occurred in this area and the reason for the floods. Constructions have been taking place on the banks of the waterway. If an agreement can be reached to remove the unauthorized constructions, then I can release the funds allocated by the Ministry of Disaster Management. I extend my gratitude to the Sirasa Media Network for revealing this issue because it helps us to take certain decisions. If these unauthorized constructions are demolished and if a bund is constructed here, there will be no disasters. We are grateful for the assistance provided by Sirasa. When issues are highlighted on the news, the people are aware of it. We are grateful to Sirasa for pointing this out.
It's time now for a short commercial break.